Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
And I'm Pops.
And this is our Week 1 NFL preview. So we'll go through each of the games, sort of give our thoughts on it. And then next week, after the games are over, what you'll get is you'll get a mix of a little bit of both, of a review of the games, but then a prediction going into the next week, just taking a look at who these teams play ahead. But the NFL season kicks off Thursday, which is great. Also occurs on Friday, college football Saturday, NFL Sunday, NFL Monday. I'll be divorced by Tuesday, based upon how long I'm going to lay on the couch. So with that, Pops has got the trivia to start off the show.
Yeah, man. So all these questions are coming from the last 60 years of the Super Bowl era. But I thought it was a little bit interesting to go into some Week 1 trivia. So let's get it started. Who threw the most passing touchdowns in a Week 1 game?
Week 1. I'm going to go with this is going to be someone completely random.
Well, I can give you the year if that helps.
All right, year?
2013.
13. Is it Peyton?
It's
with
Peyton.
Denver?
Yeah, Peyton threw 7 against Baltimore.
Well, I think that was the year that they put up enough points to beat anyone except for the Seattle defense.
Checks. All right, this next one's 2011. Who threw for the most passing yards in a Week 1 game?
11. Big Ben?
Well, it's from the AFC. I will say that. Different conference, though. Some people regard him as the GOAT.
Was it Brady?
It was Brady. Brady threw 517 yards against Miami.
Yeah, I was thinking you were about to say against the Bills because, God, he destroyed them every time he played them.
Well, this next guy played for the Bills. Which player had the most rushing yards in a Week 1 game?
Is it Thurman Thomas? No.
Even earlier.
OJ?
The Juice. 250 versus New England.
You knew how to run up a tab.
Yeah, dude. So that was it.
Well, I mean, some good Week 1. It's funny because all of those guys, except for OJ, had success at a Super Bowl level. And because Buffalo's never had success at a Super Bowl level, unless you count making 4 straight.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Sorry, dog. Getting murdered out there, so to speak, with OJ. All right. Well, since we're getting off of the murder and your wife and a waiter, let's get into Thursday night. So Thursday night, Ravens at Chiefs. Chiefs are -3. Initial thoughts on the game?
I mean, I'm really concerned. I've got the Chiefs winning. My only question mark that still sits around is my conspiracy from last year going to be played out true, that Matt Nagy calls the offense during the normal season again? Or will Andy be calling all the shots for Week 1 just so that they can get through Baltimore to win the game? I mean, we know they have the talent, but will they gel, or will they look like how they did last year, starting off with such a slow start, just not barely making the playoffs, but the wins that they had just weren't that that they weren't that sexy, for lack of better words. They were just barely winning some games by field goals, and it's going to be interesting to see if Baltimore's defense, they lost Patrick Queen, if they were able to plug and play somebody in the middle there with Roquan Smith, to see if that defense can slow down this offense, because we already know that Spags has a good defense. And it's just going to be a matter of what kind of offense shows up for the Chiefs, essentially, because we know as long as John Harbaugh runs the ball instead of passing 100 times a game, this is going to be a pretty competitive game and a great game to start off the season, in my opinion.
This game to me means way more to the Ravens than it does the Chiefs, because for the Chiefs, it's something that you sort of alluded to. For as bad as they played last year, once they got into the playoffs, it was lights out each and every week, even in the Super Bowl. The Ravens, on the other hand, it's like they're trying to get revenge, and nothing would sort of be worse to start the season off for the Ravens than to go into Kansas City and lose, especially if it sort of can go like I think it can against Spag, where Henry gets stifled for like less than 50 yards. They're sitting back, manning up Zay Flowers. They're just not letting Lamar run. Mahomes is having his way with like Xavier Worthy taking the top off defenses. I would say that Hollywood catches a pass. I don't think he's going to play week one. I think he's still recovering from that shoulder injury that he had in the preseason. There's a lot of questions on Baltimore side. I know Maul has like went back to this multiple times. My biggest question is how do they use Henry? Is this because I think it either goes really good or really bad. Henry has had a lot of success against the Chiefs. He's had success in the playoffs and regular season, has given them fits, and that's with Spag at the helm. I think another big part of the Chiefs defense that no one's really talking about is they lost Ladarius Sneed to the Titans. And I'm not saying that he fit the exact bill that the Chiefs needed, but it will be interesting to see that they lost some guys on defense in order to pay for some other guys around the others, paying their center, Humphreys, keeping Kelsey, going out and getting Worthy, going out inside Hollywood Brown, keeping, the defensive tackle, Chris Jones. It'll be interesting from that standpoint to see what happens. I'm sort of with you, though. It's hard to pick against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Like, it's Mahomes. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, especially with the talent that he has. And if Worthy can just catch the football, and the Chiefs' biggest threat to losing this game, they fixed a week ago. You know what that was?
They got rid of Tony.
So the second they cut Tony, I was like, well, that was the biggest hurdle for the Chiefs going into the season, and they fixed that problem before it ever became one.
Yeah, I think the missing piece too that I forgot to reference, Mark Andrews is hurt, so I don't know. He's questionable right now if he's going to play this week. And let's be honest, if they're able to lock up Flowers, who else is Lamar throwing to? Because we all know Aguilar can't catch, so Mark Andrews has always been his pretty much number 2 target, I would say. Most of the time he favors a receiver. Sometimes he falls into Lamar's number 1 target. And if he's not out there on the field, I mean, I can't remember the backup. Likely, I think. He was all right last year when Andrews was hurt again, but Mark Andrews is a big piece of that offense that they need.
The other thing with their offense that this is the weird nuance with Henry. Henry's never been a back out of the backfield to catch the football like amazingly. He has, especially on screens and other things that he's got blockers in front of him. He looks really good doing that. But in Baltimore's offense, they really like sort of an all-purpose. You look at the backs of the pass, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, even going back to Willis McGahee. Like Harbaugh's always sort of had his type of back. Henry is not this all-purpose back, in my opinion. He is a down the field, I'm going to get you 4 or 5 yards every time, which is great. It'll be interesting to see, sort of like you're talking about, they're possibly missing Andrews. How does that affect them in the passing game, especially on third down, where it's not a pure run? Who's that backup that's going in? How are the Ravens going to handle that? But I think I'm confident in saying me and you both are picking the Chiefs to win week 1. Yep.
Fact. Yeah.
All right. Then Friday night, we get in Brazil, Packers versus Eagles. Eagles right now are -3. Initial thoughts on it. For me, how to say Saquon? It's sort of the same of the Ravens. I like this matchup way more in terms of just what I think the offensive dynamic can be. The Eagles should, in my opinion, put up over 30. They have Saquon, Jalen Hurts, and then at wide receivers, you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Johan Dotson, Dallas Goedert at tight end. Like, there's no reason that this offense shouldn't be lethal. And I would say that if this doesn't, like, if they don't go down there and don't look good against the Packers, people are going to be calling for Nick Sirianni's head week one. Week one. And then on the opposite side, you have Love, which you as a Bears fan, I think, are sort of hoping for this, which is the sophomore slump. I get that this is not really his second year in the NFL, but it's really his second true season as a starter. And mainly where that slump happens is you have now an entire year film on you. Teams have watched, they're going to play you differently. How does that work? And I think he's going against a really good defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. Like, I think the Eagles, this should be prime time for them to come out and wear out the Packers. That's my initial take going in. What about you?
I mean, my biggest question is, what color uniforms are they wearing? Because I mean, it said that they can't wear green because that was the one of the opposing teams there. The owner's like, no, y'all aren't wearing green. And the NFL, as smart as they are, picked two teams that primary color is green. So already off to a good start, Goodell, as far as doing this international marketing. But for me, dude, honestly, I don't see how the Packers will be able to stop the offense. In my opinion, I know that they have a young defense. They're still one of the. I think they are the youngest team in the league, and they have the youth on their side, but with that, they don't have the experience. And I think, with Hurts, the way that he's led the team, a lot of people saying this is a do or die year for Hurts. I don't necessarily believe that true because he's an athlete. He's a leader, proven winner. And, he's taken this team to a Super Bowl, even though they lost. Like, I think Hurts is right where he needs to be. Now, the biggest question is how is Kellen Moore going to shape this offense to his style of liking? We saw how it didn't play out last year. So they brought in Kellen Moore as well as, Vic Fangio. And I'll tell you what, the dumbest move that the Bears made was Matt Nagy firing Vic Fangio. Like, I never understood that. Even to this day, I guarantee you it's probably because Vic is not a yes man. And he's like, hey, my process works. I'm not changing it for anybody. And, that's, Matt Nagy and him probably rubbed heads the wrong way. I could see this defense being a, very similar to a 2018 Chicago Bears style defense of just they're taking the ball away. There's some ball hawks. They're getting the pressure up front. They've got the dogs on the line there. The only vulnerability I really truly think that the Eagles team has is, and it's probably not even that bad, but it's still going to be a downgrade. It's who they put at center to replace Kelsey. Like how is that going to shift? Like, are the nose guards, the D tackles, like are those guys going to be able to get pressure up the middle? That's going to make it a nightmare for Jalen Hurts.
I do agree. I mean, it's impossible to replace a Hall of Fame player immediately right off the bat with someone that's just as good. Has it been done? Yes. Is it extremely rare? 100%. I'll go back to the defense, though. Last year, for as talented as they were on the defensive line,
They look bad.
they look bad. Now, Jalen Carter's coming in the year two. They still have Jordan Davis. Fletcher Cox retired. They lost Hassan Reddick to the Jets, who may or may not play Monday night. He's in a contract dispute. But then you look at on the other side, I thought they grabbed an amazing corner out of Toledo with a first round pick. And then they also went out and snagged the
Cooper
only white guy to
DeJean.
play corner in the past, like since, football games came on TV pretty much. It will be interesting to see if there's a weakness in my mind for the Eagles. It's that defense, just because finding a cornerback is super hard. You take two in the first round, it's almost a guarantee that one of them is going to be a bust. Like it will be interesting to see, can the Eagles with Fangio get that defensive line where Fangio has usually had his defensive line at. That shouldn't be the issue. It's the back end. How's the secondary going to hold up? A lot of new guys that's going to come up when we talk about the Lions. For me, again, those two teams are eerily similar in terms of when you're replacing guys on the backside, that can go really well for you. It can go really, really bad just
Mhm.
because they're really hard to find. But who do you have in the Eagles Packers?
I mean, do we even got to ask that question?
Eagles.
But yeah, I've got the Eagles.
All right. Then on to Sunday. So Sunday, first game I've got is an interesting one just because I think it's solely revolves around the position of quarterback. Pittsburgh at Atlanta. You got Russell Wilson, who is trying to show that somehow the past 5 years were not accurate. And then on the other side, you have Kirk Cousins, who I think that was really playing, I would argue, at an MVP level in terms of statistics those first few weeks at Minnesota, coming off an Achilles. I Atlanta's only -3, which is, I think even Vegas is showing that they're like, I don't know. Like, we want to see this offense come out on the field before we start hopping on the Atlanta bandwagon. We'll see. The other big thing for Atlanta for me is in week one. Sorry, I got to sit up to get fired up about this. If in week one, like Atlanta can't generate a pass rush, I hope the only narrative that comes out is what was that GM doing taking a quarterback that wasn't going to play for 3 years instead of taking a defensive player. Like that for me is the utilized like push line for this game is really, was the GM right? Because if they come out and they blow out the Steelers, which they should, no one will really bat an eye. But if they really struggle generating pressure, and let's say like Dallas Turner from Minnesota just turns it on and sacks Danny Dimes like 5 times in the game, a lot of people are going to be sitting there going, "Yo, dog, we could have used that. What happened?" That's my big take going into this game. Outside of, I think Russell Wilson and the Steelers like are going to hand Mike Tomlin his first losing season as the Steelers head coach. Go ahead and put it on record. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. The Steelers didn't upgrade at quarterback. Like, yes, they got a steal because they don't have to pay Russell $39 million this season. They're able to give him $1 million, and they can use it as a bridge year. Now, with that comes exactly what you said. You're putting your record of not having a losing season on the line because you guys didn't want to go spend money on a different quarterback in the offseason to try to, give the team some steam. Let's be honest, they've got a pretty solid defense. They always have. It's just been the offense, essentially since Big Ben's decline, in those years that they haven't had Big Ben, they just haven't had an offense. Like, they had a couple games with James Conner. Najee showed glimpses of hope. Jalen Warren showed little glimpses of hope as well. But it's like now, the RB by committee with Najee and Warren in the backfield, like we're going to see how that shapes up. But also, how are you going to utilize Russ? Like, is Russ, I'll be honest, he's probably not fast enough to be escaping the pocket like he used to. Like, yeah, he might be able to pick up some first downs, but he's not going to be, the threat that you have to deal with putting a spy on him like Mahomes or Lamar or somebody like that. Like, he just doesn't have that speed anymore. He does have accuracy. We've seen it in the offseason. He's still able to drop a ball in there, but he's got to have time to be able to do that. So that's going to be a lingering question for that Steelers offense. And then to move it to Atlanta, like what is Vegas looking at? I think a lot relies on the new regime coming in. Like, this is first year Raheem Moore, seeing what he's going to be able to do with this team. He's already had failed success, I think, at Tampa Bay, if I remember right.
In
Uh,
Atlanta.
yeah, and then Atlanta as well. So bringing him into the picture to see what he's going to do, over this season for that matter, with I would argue that he's definitely a Hall of Famer. First ballot could probably be up for argument. Uh, See if he's able to do anything with Kurt in the last few years that he has remaining on this on his playing time. Not even a contract, just playing time in general. The man's 36 years old, coming off an Achilles. But like you mentioned, last year and the year before, when they started out the season 10-1, uh, Kirk was putting up MVP numbers passing. Like, he was leading the league in everything. Granted, he had Justin Jefferson, the greatest wide receiver in the league right now. Sorry that his stats are about to go down this season. But, Kirk had the weapons with also Hawkinson, Addison for a little while, and then Dalvin Cook before he got traded and everything else. But all that to say, the fact that they're only a -3 is pretty crazy to me, because I don't see, unless JJ or TJ Watt, excuse me, unless TJ Watt just comes out and literally puts the team on his back like he does every single game, I don't see how Atlanta doesn't blow them out.
Yeah, two things. I was taking a look. You were talking about the Steelers' offense. This is sort of nerve wracking if you're a Steelers fan. You know they have Pickens. Other two starting wide receivers on their depth chart right now are Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin the third. They did go out and they drafted Roman Wilson, the little slot wide receiver from
From
Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah.
They also have listed as their third running back Cordell Patterson. I think his wide receiver days, like I can see him in the slot getting a few plays. I don't think he's your every down wide receiver. He's definitely more of that kick return, almost like a wildcat, running back slash wide receiver that you can put in to utilize him. But they don't have a lot of options in Pittsburgh. I know that they had a trade in place for Brennan Ayuk, which I think was a big show to try to, hey, we need help. There's also a rumor that they may trade. One of the hot candidates for trade this year that I was reading about was D Hop out of Tennessee. If Tennessee's bad, that maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers go and get him, which I think fits their scheme of what they try to do. The real issue is what does Russell Wilson look like? I agree with you. Now, on defense, it's always been TJ Watt. They did go get Patrick Queen. I think that really helps their defense, especially in the middle. You have Minka on the back end that solidifies it. But sort of like with Denver, it doesn't matter how good that defense was going to be. If Russell Wilson looks anything like he did the past few years, the Steelers are toast. The only thing that gives them hope in this game was something my dad was talking about was, dude, went to that last preseason game in Atlanta, watched them play the Jags. Jags beat them like it was either 21 or 28 nothing. And when I was talking to my dad about going to the game, his big thing was he's like, "Did you see the after game with the head coach?" I was like, "No, we were driving home." He's like, "The dude was like laughing, just like, hey, it's a good time, got some guys out." And it's like that for me was not for a first year guy. Like I wanted to see like a Belichick where it's just like, I'm upset. Like we just got it handed to us at our own home the week before we're going to go kick off to like start the season. This is not fun. Like this shouldn't be joked about. That to me, like, I don't know. If it was anyone other than Russell Wilson and the Steelers, I would pick them against Atlanta week 1. It's just the fact that it's Russell Wilson that I have zero faith in him that I'm going Atlanta. You got Atlanta as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and that's the thing too. I think we're going to see this season, $39 million get sucked into a guy that's sitting on the bench. Like I don't think it's going to be as long as everybody thinks before Justin Fields ends up being the starter in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Which I hate to say it, but that ain't going to go much better either based on how the preseason went.
Checks.
Next game. This one's an underappreciated game because I think it's assumed how this one's going to go, especially by Vegas. Cardinals at Bills. Vegas has it -6 for the Bills. I think a lot of that's just on Josh Allen being the quarterback for Buffalo. It's interesting on the other side. I get that they have Connor at running back who's getting a little bit older in age. They do have Marvin Harrison Jr. now. No one will have his jersey because he hasn't signed his deal with Fanatics. So you won't see any MHJ or jerseys up in the stands. Kyler Murray's at running back. The Bills, for me, I like them in this game just because it's against Arizona. However, a lot of questions are going to come out of this in terms of either being answered. What's the Bills offense look like wide receiver? I will give Bills fans a little bit of hope when I say this. Stephon Diggs was not anything but a cancer on that team for the last few years. Don't get me wrong. He has talent. He has immense talent. That talent will be missed. What won't be missed is his mouth and like the antics on the sideline. I'm glad that that's out of Buffalo. You see Keon Coleman, breath of fresh air. His biggest issue is sometimes the dude doesn't catch the football. You would think that'd be a higher priority in drafting a wide receiver. He, to me, reminds me of like Des Bryant. He's not going to have separation speed, but what he will be really good at is down in the end zone, 50-50 balls. He should win a majority of those. On the defensive side, it's an absolute train wreck for Buffalo. Like,
Mhm.
you got DeMar Hamlin out there starting. They went out and they signed Scene from the Vikings, the first round pick that got cut 2 years after getting drafted out of Georgia. Had a great national championship game against Alabama and looked really good at Georgia, just never lived up to what the Vikings wanted or really the NFL wanted. Outside of that, Buffalo sort of they lose starting middle linebacker. If I didn't already say that, I just sit back. There's a lot of questions for Buffalo. They have Josh Allen, and if Josh Allen wasn't playing, I'd tell you the Cards were -6 favorite. But how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I still got Buffalo winning the game, but I think it's going to be closer. Like I could see Arizona being able to cover. And I'm looking at it right now. Their defense on top of, everything that you just mentioned, just right now out of their third all the way I can see all the way to their third string. There are 8 dudes that are questionable already leading into this week. And let me tell you, they out of the free safety position, including DeMar Hamlin, every single one of them is questionable, and one dude's on the IR from the free safety position. So their secondary is already hurt. They've got a cornerback that's hurt as well. Dude, this defense, they're lucky that they're playing Arizona Cardinals to to begin the season because these guys did not have a good offseason. As well as, I mean, we've discussed it in length. Just all the money that they had dumped in to Von Miller over the years, and even right now, I'm looking at it. Von Miller is second string. He's not even the starting guy according to the depth chart, and you're just pumping in. I forget how much money he's making, but I know it's a stupid amount of
It's
money.
double digits.
Yeah, I knew it was in the tens of thousands or tens of millions, excuse me. And he's not even starting for you anymore. Like that should be just if you're a Bills fan, alarming due to the fact that your management put money into a guy who is already aging and on the backside of his career. And now here he is. Like we talked about it last year about how much money he made per snap, for the games that he did play last season.
It's like
I
two
mean,
million a snap.
yeah, exactly. Just stupid amounts of money because he was never there. And then same with the offense, man. They brought in Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel's on the backside of his career. Like, yes, he had some success, in between Washington. I think he went to Carolina for a little while as well. And then MVS, they brought in MVS in the offseason. Yes, he's a speed guy, but let's be honest, he's his own worst enemy. He can be wide open and drop a ball like it's nothing. We've been seeing it since his Green Bay days when he played with Aaron Rodgers. Like he is a speed threat, but sometimes you want to leave the guy wide open, and all you got to do is clap, and he's going to drop the ball. It's like taking it back to high school practice when you used to do that to your buddies, and they would fumble, and then you'd make fun of them. So they still have Josh Allen. There's still a general on the field to lead the offense and to be a leader. But I still stand true with what we talked about 2 weeks ago. This is going to be the season that we see Josh Allen making those stupid, not making the wrong decisions, trying to force something to happen, and it's going to go the wrong way this season just because he doesn't have the guys on the other side.
I can see that. I think you're going to see a lot of two tight end sets getting Kincaid and Knox out there just because of the lack of wide receiver talent that you see out there. Like a total agreement. When you have MVS out there, it's a liability. We knew going in the last season that he couldn't catch. And if he could, and if he was that big of a playmaker, let me tell you,
He'd
the
still be
Chiefs
on the
would have kept
Chiefs.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's plain simple.
I also
So,
I do think we could see McDermott getting fired this year. I mean,
oh,
he was on,
100%.
he was on the hot seat last year. I see him being gone this year if they're even close to
The only thing
500.
that saved McDermott was the kicker missing the field goal.
Yeah,
That's it. Like they should have fired him then.
they should have
Just
fired him when they had DeMar Hamlin run the fake punt
oh my gosh.
in the
Yeah. I
playoffs.
don't know.
In the playoffs.
Did not know Make a Wish Foundation was calling plays in the playoffs. Goodness sakes. But yeah, there you have it. So we both have the Bills, but I think both of us would also be willing to say if the Cardinals won, I would not be shocked in the least. Like
Hmm.
it wouldn't phase me at all.
And you'll see in my picks this week. I chose Arizona for the spread.
Yeah, it's a smart move. a lot of hate on the Cardinals, but as long as Murray stays healthy, he'll give a defense that really doesn't have a lot of talents fits.
Well, and I mean, you look at it last year, they beat the Cowboys. They had the brand
With
new
Josh
coach.
Dobbs.
Yeah. And they had the brand new coach last year, who was talking about taking the bus to work. I forget the motivation speech. You got to go look it up. But he was talking about taking the bus to work and how it just motivates you and all this kind of jazz. And anyways, long story short, um, you know, they are moving more so in the right direction than the wrong direction like they used to.
100%. And as you sit there with your Dick Buckus jersey on, Pops' game of the week, Titans at Chicago.
Oh yeah.
All right. I will give you this. I'll set you up and then I'll let you get your rant on. This for me is an important game for the Bears, not so much to win, but just to not rattle Caleb Williams from the get-go. I would love to see him come out, some quick, easy throws, just get him in the game, utilize Devontae Smith, or not Devontae Smith, DeAndre Swift, excuse me, at running back. Really let the talent shine. They have DJ Moore. Let him, they have Rome Odunze. They have Keno Allen. They have Cole Kmet. They have DeAndre Swift. Like, they have enough talent that it should not be sort of as it was the past few years, all thrown on Justin Fields' shoulders to make it work. I think CW, as we saw in the preseason, amazingly talented. It's just about putting him in good situations that, hey, if on 2nd and 8, maybe instead of letting him air one out, run it. Make it a 3rd and manageable. Like, put Caleb Williams in positions to win rather than putting him behind the chain from the get-go, because let's be honest, we still don't know what that Bears offensive line looks like, and if it looks anything like it did last year, it's not a good thing. Defensively, I think the Bears got a lot better. They're going against a Titans team that, in my opinion, is one of the worst in football. Like, outside of Jeffrey Simmons, name someone on that defense.
I mean, besides Snead,
since I brought him up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, offense. It's like, if you can't do to stop a dude that puts mayonnaise in his coffee, like, we got a problem. Like, D-Hop may not even play. So it's really going to be Calvin Ridley. And outside of him, like,
Tony Pollard.
Dude, Tony Pollard's, he'll be a backup to Spears. Spears has talent. He's not Derrick Henry, which I think them getting rid of Henry helps them from the standpoint of, I felt like they always would just fall back on Henry, and it made it so that the rest of their team never developed. Now it's just showing it really glaringly that, like, hey, we don't have a lot of talent while they went out and got Ridley. But this should be a game that Chicago should come out. It's Chicago -4 right now. In my heart, Chicago wins by double digits. I think it's a good game for Chicago. It's a great way to start the Caleb Williams era. I just look for it to be sort of a patience rather than letting all the cats out of the bag from game 1. Take it away.
Yeah, man. I am very excited for the fact that we played Tennessee Titans first, because if you look week 2, we play Houston Texans. So we get a good win under our belt, and then we move into should be a good win. Let me take that back. Should be a good win moving into with the Houston Texans. Be really Caleb's first challenge against a pretty decent defense. My biggest thing is there were some things that I didn't like in the preseason that still kind of scared me. Like we talked about it, we were texting, when they played Buffalo Bills in the preseason, Caleb was holding the ball too long. We saw that come out of Justin Fields. Now, don't get me wrong. Caleb Williams can sling it so much better than Fields. And he has a better pocket awareness. Like I felt Fields would escape the pocket and just take off. It did not matter. He knew his life was in danger. He's out. If you watch Caleb was able to make all the adjustments that were necessary, staying in the pocket and then trying to make the play, still make the play happen. And there were times where he would move towards, the sidelines, lose, 10 or so yards trying to still get a throw off, A couple times he did. He had that really nice throw to Komet off the sideline. He had one to Adunze. But there were also times where he did that same exact thing, trying to extend the play, and he threw it out of bounds. I think that is where, Fields might have had the advantage because he would just take off and run him with it and get some positive yards versus trying to get the pass off. And the problem with that with Williams is I could see some silly interceptions early on just because he was trying to do that, trying to extend that play too much. And yes, it worked in college. And yes, we've seen it work in the preseason, but are you really playing the starters or are you playing, the twos and threes? So there's definitely question marks lingering. But I think as far as success goes, Williams is in such a better start from the get go than Justin Fields ever was. Like Fields only had DJ Moore, last season because Montgomery was gone. So Fields had DJ Moore. Well, Williams has, like you've already said, Komet, Allen, Adunze, Swift out of the backfield, and that is going to be very exciting to me. I've talked about the defense already. It was one of the best at the end of the season last year. The Bears were one of the best uh, defenses that were in the entire league. So I still think that's going to be true, and we saw it in the offseason. I mean, they were attacking the ball, even the twos and the threes. And I've said it. The preseason just shows that we have depth, and being 4-0 in the preseason, hopefully it doesn't go like the 0-16 Lions, but it just shows that when our starters need a breather, good luck on that defense because you're not going to stop them. And I think Eberflus shows that he's a defensive minded guy, and we have a very solid defense. As far as the Titans, you've kind of already alluded to it. I don't know what we're going to see out of them. They got rid of Malik Willis, so they're saying Will Levis is our guy. Well, Will Levis showed last year that he, although had some moments, that first game, when he threw 3 TDs to D Hop, but after that, it was like, all right, this guy could also go out and throw us 4 interceptions, and and this is what we got to deal with. At least Tannehill, for the most part, would take care of the ball, but in all fairness, he also had Derrick Henry to hand it off to 90% of the time. So uh, I think there is going to be an identity crisis, especially if D Hop's out, because all you got to do is play 2 on Ridley, and you don't have a passing game anymore.
Yeah, and the other thing with the Titans for Titans fans that is, and we talked about it in our circle, the loss of Vrabel for that defense will be significant.
Oh gosh,
Like Vrabel kept them in so many games with a bunch of no names on defense because Vrabel knew how to coach a defense, which is scary when we get to the Cincinnati game because, or not Cincinnati, to the Cleveland game because Vrabel's in Cleveland with that defense.
oh yeah,
They should rock out. Like that to me is what I'm really interested to see is this Titans defense, I think, is set up right now to really get exposed against Chicago. It's about what you talked about. Can we set Caleb Williams up so he's not sort of at that USC level and sort of in the preseason where it's like, I just need you to get the ball out of your hands now. Like, this is not a good defense. We will see that each and every week from here on out. This is a great chance for you to have 60 minutes to warm up.
mm-hmm.
So, all right. Then we got Patriots and Bengals. The Pats are named Drake May as not the starter, as we all sort of predicted would happen. The Bengals, though, their big issue is right now Jamar Chase has not practiced, and he's still not practicing. He wants a contract. I see him sitting out of the game. I don't think the Bengals are going to pay him, and I think he'll sit. What happens from that standpoint, in my opinion, will be nuts. Mainly because without Chase, don't get me wrong, Boyd and Higgins, well, they don't even have Boyd this year. I think it's just Higgins.
Just Higgins.
You look at their offense, and I don't have a lot of faith with the Bengals. So right now they have Jermaine Burton.
I can't even pronounce that other guy's name.
Andre Alavis. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know who that is. And
Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, I'm looking at his stats right now. He had last year with the Bengals, he had 25 targets, 15 catches for 116 yards. Starter this year. Then you have Jermaine Burton, rookie from Alabama, who he it's sort of a wild card. His problem is I can easily see him making a catch and immediately getting a 15-yard penalty for he won't shut up. Like in the NFL, guys can get under your skin, and I saw that happen a lot at Bama where guys got under his skin. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Like if Jamar Chase doesn't play this game, it, it's sort of what we've said with a lot of these teams that the Bengals are the better team. They are fortunate that they're playing the Patriots because the Patriots are terrible. The Patriots are awful. I don't know who Jacoby Brissett's going to throw the football to this year. And Drake May coming in is not the answer. So I like the Bengals. There was a I don't know how if I want to even get into this. It was a good TikTok that I saw. There's only one team in the NFL that does not have their own indoor facility. Like they have a bubble for a practice field, but no indoor facility. It's the Bengals. And so this TikTok, so he didn't go into that level, but so this guy was the son of the legendary head coach Jim Brown. Who the Cleveland Browns are named after. He inherited the team. He does not come from money. So his only source of income is the Bengals. He doesn't have the money so if they gave like a guaranteed $100 million, he has to send that check. Like he's not Jerry Jones. It's like, yeah, I have billions. I can afford to sling money to go get guys, even though Jerry Jones doesn't do that. He just spends it on more yachts and hookers. the Bengals are in a position money wise that I think it's going to expose them week one. If they don't, the good news for them, they're playing the Pats, and the Pats are terrible. Before I let you have it, here's the Patriots starting lineup: Jacoby Brissett, Ramondre Stevenson, Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, and KJ Osborne, and Hunter Henry. I don't know who those three wide receivers are. In total transparent, I've never heard of those guys. Maybe if I like went and researched them a little bit more, I could be like, oh, I remember that guy from this. They don't have a starter. Like it's the Bengals. That's why the Bengals are -8.5. It's just the fact that if Chase doesn't play, I think it keeps the only fact it's can the Patriots get the Burrow? That's it. What about you?
Yeah, when I saw, when we did the picks for the spread, I think I had New England, covering just because if Jamar Chase isn't out there, T. Higgins isn't that guy that's going to he's not going to be the playmaker that Chase is going to be. Like he's not going to get the separation. He's not going to make the catches in traffic. Like they will be missing an obvious piece or a glaring piece if Jamar Chase isn't out there. And oh, by the way, they still haven't fixed the line yet. I mean, they had Mims, and he's still questionable, and he's second string. So you've already got a guy that the only person that you brought in this season to try to help your offensive line, and he's hurt. So you're already dealing with the same exact line that you had last season. And let's be honest, like that's what got Joe hurt. That's why Joe broke his wrist. That's why Browning got hurt. Browning's questionable right now. They might have a practice guy on the team this week who has to sling it. So there's a
Uncle
lot of
Rico's in the stands too, if needed.
And so that's the thing here is that, if Burrow doesn't look good, and everybody's already been talking about the new type of pass he throws because from the surgery, it has a wobble to it. It's not a steady spiral anymore. I mean, there's just a lot of question marks left. Zach Moss was a very solid running back in Indianapolis, but he also had Stain Steichen calling the plays for him. So, dude, there's a lot of question marks because, Zach Moss, was a backup to start the season behind JT. We'll see what he does now that he's put into this role with with the Bengals. Joey B, I know he's ready to play. He's been ready to play since he got hurt early last season. So I think, overall, I'll probably end up regretting that I chose New England to cover. But, they're the offense of the Bengals just has too many question marks without Jamar Chase on the field. And then the offensive line. Moving into the New England, I mean, you've said it. I don't think we need to beat the dead horse anymore, but I find it funny that they say, "Hey, we don't want to ruin Drake May, so we're going to let him sit behind Jacoby Brissett and let Jacoby Brissett just get murdered." So I think they brought it up. Jacoby Brissett, I want to say in 48 starts, he was like 18-30. Like that's his record right now as a starter, and that's only going to continue to grow in the loss category. And
And it's
will
not really on Jacoby Brissett.
no,
It's
it's
really
not.
the fact that he's on terrible teams.
Exactly. Like you look at Washington, you look at the Colts, the teams that and the Pats the first time. He's been in some pretty bad situations with other teams that he's been a part of. He has Hunter Henry. He was great when he was with Justin Herbert. He kind of hasn't, revamped his career since moving to the Patriots, mostly because Mac Jones nor Cam Newton could throw a football. So, um, yeah, dude, the defense of the Pats, I couldn't even tell you who they had working on it. Judon's gone, excuse me. He went to the Falcons. So I can't tell you. I'm kind of in the same boat with the Titans. I can't tell you anybody that plays for the Pats defense.
Yeah. Tough game.
And here's a conspiracy theory. Bill saw the writing on the wall and he just imploded this team. Like as much of a mastermind as Bill is, I think this would be his ultimate sabotage to Robert Kraft, in my personal opinion.
I need to chew that over because honestly, that has a lot of teeth in it that I sort of actually like that.
Yeah.
All right, next, one of two games in which the road team is favored, Texans at Colts. What do you got?
I'm going to go with the Texans. I mean, I think it could go either direction. But if you go point blank, we look at last year for the last game of the season to get into the playoffs. It was Indy versus the Texans. Obviously, the Texans ended up winning. But look at that game from last season. They had Gardner Minshew leading the offense for the Colts. Still, everybody else is still the same in the building. JT's back healthy. So with Anthony Richardson, the only question that remains is, which version is going to be showing up. AR-15, that's, looks like Joe Milton out there throwing it 90 yards, to nobody, or are you actually going to be on the money with your passes? Here's the other part. If, AR takes off running, the dude, yes, he is huge, but he sat out all of last year pretty much after 4 games because he was running and just getting popped because he doesn't slide. So I would have to see, Richardson sliding, when he's scrambling to really make a good judgment call. But based off of that, I'm going to go with the Texans just purely based on the offense that they've built this season. We've said it time and time again that Diggs will probably be another cancer for another team. It's only a matter of time, if Tank Dell, Nico Collins, if they're getting more love to where Stephon Diggs has now fallen to a number 3 slot, like I don't think that's going to sit well with him, and it's only going to cause problems for that locker room. And I still think that was such a surprising move for them to do for the Texans based on who they already had in that locker room. But with that, I think another year of CJ Stroud. I feel like he's going to be the one who's able to power through a sophomore slump. Like, I don't think we're going to see any regression from CJ. I like his mentality, the character, his leadership, the way that he handles himself on and off the field. He's just a straight up competitor, and he will kill you in any sport. Like, I don't know if you've seen the dude play basketball, but he's a baller. Like, I think he's just an absolute athlete, and he has all the intangibles that's needed to lead the team. And we're going to see them beat Indy this weekend.
I have the same thing. I have the Texans winning. It's just I'm in the same boat. I have way more trust because I've seen what Stroud can do. I have very limited game footage on Richardson at that level. I think that Steichen's a great coach. If something was to happen to him, they have Joe Flacco in the wings. Indy should be good. It's just a matter of where does that progression happen with Anthony Richardson. Can he get down? Can he slide? I'm going to hit on that when we get to Washington with Jaden Daniels because Jaden's way smaller than Anthony Richardson, and he's prone to not slide and take some shots. guys have to make business decisions, and I don't care who you're going against, whether it's a defensive lineman or their starting safety, that dude will take
Mhm.
your head off.
Yep.
Like, they are a starting position on an NFL roster, they will murder you without hesitation. You got to get down. So, in agreement. Then we got Jags at Miami. It's funny because we both have a good buddy who we flew with that's a big Miami fan, and it's every year it's like I'm ready to get hurt again. My prediction is the Jags hurt him, and it's because Miami lost their whole offensive line pretty much last season, and they went out and drafted a defensive lineman who's projected second string in the first round. Jacksonville has a good defensive line. They have Trayvon Walker. They went out and got Eric Armstrong from the Niners. They still have Josh Allen on the end. Look at this game as another game that, you know, to a CTE advances,
Mhm.
because I don't see a world in which Miami loses the guys from the interior and they really just piecemeal it together that it helps Tua. I just don't see it. I think that this is the upset, and I think it is, for as much saving grace as we give Miami's head coach, and he is funny and, you know, all these different things. I think that a lot of questions are going to start being asked, and they should have been after last season against the Chiefs. That they go into a game that, I get it's cold, but they looked awful on offense, absolutely atrocious. If that continues week one, I think more and more people are going to be speaking up about Miami's situation, saying you got way too much talent to be playing like this. What's going on? And they, you know, they paid to us, so they're in for it now. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Miami winning the game just due to the fact of it again comes down who would you rather have of Tua or T Law, you know, and I personally would take Tua, you know, just based on what McDaniels is able to do with that offense during the regular season. I'll put a caveat there. During the regular season, you know, you feel, hey, there's nobody that can stop this Miami offense. And who knows? You know, we may see another opportunity for them to put up 70, you know, in a game this season. I doubt it. But sometimes McDaniel is just able to get them clicking in that ability. And like you said, they have way too many weapons on offense for them not to be that good. And we'll just see what happens. You are right, bringing in Armstead this past offseason, as well as correction. It's now Josh Hines Allen. You know, he changed his name so that he could make more money and not be associated with the Bills quarterback anymore. But, you know, those guys on that defensive line will have the opportunity to, like you said, advance to a CTE. Hopefully, he's wearing a Guardian cap. Uh, you know, I would laugh during the game if he did, because obviously that new hair flow that he did this season with the perm, it's just not working out. So, uh,
Dude, you have to admit it would be hilarious if after like the first two series, if he's getting killed, if he came out wearing a Guardian cap, it's like, oh, dude, that would be prime
yeah,
meme material.
for sure. But yeah, I'm really excited to see, you know, if Trevor Lawrence is going to look any different than he has in years previous, because he's been paid now. So now I know he's already stuck. He feels like maybe he doesn't need to put up the same amount of production. Uh, but he has Gabe Davis, he has Evan Ingram, ETN. I think he was out, or maybe that was his brother from college. But anyways, ETN out of the backfield, like he's got all the weapons surrounding him. And it's just like, why can't you be better? You know, why can't you not be mid? You know,
Yeah,
so
100%. And then we start getting into some trash games. We get Carolina at New Orleans. Is Will Bryce Young get murdered? And how much longer am I going to have to watch Derek Carr not lead a team to victory? They have the New Orleans at -4. I'm solely on the New Orleans hype train because anytime you have an owner who is not only making draft decisions, but then has his wife to also make draft decisions, I think that you're just setting yourself up for a big failure in Carolina. It also doesn't help that, you know, Carolina, it goes back to this draft. I like Leggett as a person, but he's been outshined in camp.
mhm.
Like, you spent, you know, your very first pick on this guy, and he's already showing that it's like, hey, a lot of people are like, that's sort of a reach. Like, And I sort of felt like it was them trying to sell jerseys. He's a South Carolina guy. Let's, we're going to tie all these pieces together, get a wide receiver, and we'll sell some jerseys. It's almost like a billionaire owns a team and he's trying to make money instead of trying to win games. Like,
Mhm.
that's what I saw. I think New Orleans murders Carolina. Like, it's just, Carolina and the Giants are going to compete to see who's eventually going to draft someone else. Like, that's my thoughts on them. What about you?
Yeah, I find it funny. I don't know if you caught it or not, but Spencer Rattler was doing a presser the other day, and they're like, "Man, these New Orleans fans are great. They do anything for us. They would die for us." And one of somebody tweeted like, "Nah, dog, I never said that." But like I think it is a different atmosphere. When you're playing in New Orleans, just they travel well. It's a game in the South, regardless. So fans are traveling and the Saints is, they're a tough team to play based solely upon their fan base. Still living the glory days from Katrina. They live and die by the Saints. Like a lot of people truly believe in New Orleans that the Saints pulled them out of Katrina. Like that's just what they hold on to, as their identity. And so with that, there's a lot of pieces missing for these two teams. I think we can all agree with that. Overall, I do think that the Saints have the better puzzle pieces that are there to win this game. I mean, essentially, what we're looking at, we've already talked about it. This is going to be the game for third place of the division. So, I think the Saints win this one pretty easily.
It also helps, and as an underutilized stat, any state that I can get a drive-through daiquiri, the fans are probably going to be lit on Sunday. So it helps New Orleans. Like that's why it's a difficult place to play. It's just like, I mean, I always like what Saban talked about with Baton Rouge. He's like, you can smell the bourbon in the air. He's like,
Mhm.
it's that thick. It's like people have done nothing but prepare for this game all day long, and it being an afternoon game in New Orleans, buckle up, Carolina. It's going to be a long day.
Mhm.
Then we have our second road team who's favored to win. And this one's just what a, I'm going to watch the game because it's the first week and it's mainly going to be to see how sad it is before I turn it off. Minnesota at the Giants. Like, Danny Dimes will have a lot of talent around him. I feel bad for neighbors. I feel bad for really the Giants because they didn't want to pay Saquon. Your best player, you chose to spend 160 million on Danny than Saquon, and it's going to show. And
Mhm.
on the other side, with Minnesota, can Sam Darnold play? Like, or is he seeing ghosts like he did last time he was in New York? For me, I like Minnesota. It's just because I like the pieces that they have, and they don't have Danny Dimes at quarterback. That's the big one. What about you?
The thing that I like about Minnesota is that they still have Kirk Cousins' offensive line. I think that's going to help Sam Darnold tremendously. Is that he's going to have time to throw the ball. He's got Jefferson. Is Addison still hurt? I know he got hurt.
Addison's healthy. It's Hawk that's hurt. Hawk
Okay,
tore
so
up his.
yeah, so he's still got two receivers. One and two guys out there. On top of Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield. So I'm curious how Kevin O'Connor's going to change up this offense. If he's going to treat Aaron like he did Dalvin back in the day, and just see how he's going to sequence, the pass versus the run, having a good balance there. For the Giants, I'll be honest, I took Malik Neighbors in fantasy just because I felt like that's the only person that Danny Dimes is going to be able to throw to. He will be sitting on my bench until he proves, that Danny Dimes can actually make that throw out there. But I don't see a lot of hope for the Giants, and we've talked about it year after year. Or I know this is only season two, but we've talked about it. How bad the Giants screwed this Saquon situation up, and it's only going to get worse. They know that they're stuck with Danny Dimes, and it's just not worth them to move on, for another year and a half, 2 years, to where they can just offload them and just eat that money.
Yeah, 100%. They're not in a good situation. Anytime the GM's kids being like, "Hey, you should probably draft a quarterback," like, and that's on Hard Knocks. I go, it's going to be a long season.
The only thing they do have going for them is that defensive line. You know, they've got I
Brian
know they got
Burns,
they got Burns, they got Thibodeau, Dexter
Dexter
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean they've got a solid defensive line, but they also just lost Wink Martindale because him and Brian Daboll didn't get along. So don't be surprised, in my opinion, if Daboll is on the hot seat really soon.
That's a New York market. If
Yeah.
you don't win quick, you're going to be on the market. All right, interesting game. Raiders at Chargers. It's Jim's return to the NFL. For me, this goes more. I want to bring in Steichen again because of what he did with Gardner Minshew, and especially after watching the preseason between O'Connell and Minshew, I didn't like either one of what I saw during the preseason. Both guys looked rough. The Chargers on paper have a really good defense. They still have Boza. They still have Khalil Mack. They have players. I like Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh will make the Chargers a very good football team. If there's a team that's going to unseat Mahomes, it will be the Chargers. I'm not saying this year, but I'm just saying as future goes on, the Chargers will do the good things. I like them in this game. I know Maul and me were going back and forth on that because he's just unsure of what does Harbaugh's team look like. I just don't like. I like Antonio Pierce. I think he's a great defensive mind. It's about, well, who's their offensive coordinator? Because what Steichen did with Minshew last year cannot be understated, and I doubt that success replicates again. Because it's sort of like Geno Smith going to Seattle. He had a good year. It's difficult to replicate twice, especially when all years previous tell me that it doesn't work out in the majority of situations. What are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I've got the Chargers winning outright of this game. I'm trying to stick to my guns due to the fact that I said that Las Vegas could end up winning second place of the division. I don't want to flip flop, until we see some actual evidence, so I'm going to stick to the guns and, say that Las Vegas covers. But for me, I do agree with what you're saying, and I just recently watched the Chargers pick off Trey Lance 5 times in the preseason. So they're playing, dude. They have a defense. Now don't get me wrong, Trey Lance was throwing it right to him on several occasions, but overall, I think as long as Herbert comes out and that foot is healthy, they didn't push him back too soon to where it's going to linger into the season. I think that they're going to obviously be a threat to the Chiefs with Harbaugh coming back. I don't think that they're going to be able to make that step like you've said, but I definitely think they're going to be in a lot of games, winning a lot of games, as long as everybody can stay healthy. Because that's the last part too. Is that when's the last time Joey Bosa played a full season without being hurt? When's the last time Khalil Mack played a full season without being hurt? There's just too many question marks on that defense that they need those guys out on the field. Even last season, Keenan Allen was hurt sometimes. Mike Williams was hurt half the season. Herbert was hurt half the season. So there's a lot of injuries that have stopped them over the last couple of years. Now bringing in new system, new coaches, obviously argued. I would say he's definitely probably in the top 10. Some people could argue probably top 5, greatest coaches of all time is on your sidelines now leading the charge. And I think we're in for a heck of a ride to see what Harbaugh's able to do with a new program.
Be interesting. Next game, Denver at Seattle. What I think is going to be the short and brief relationship of Bo Nix and Sean Payton. Sean will be gone first because they've already invested in Bo Nix. I don't like Denver. I am going to stand on that until they prove me otherwise. In Seattle, the thing I told Maul the other day is so Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator in Washington last year for the Huskies, went to Seattle to be their offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the offensive talent that surrounds Geno, Metcalf, Lockett, Smith and Jigba, Walker. They have talent. Like Seattle should be scoring 30 points a game. I think that you're going to see, as long as Geno plays like he did the first year, like I think he's a sneaky pick for league MVP. Like I think that statistically he is going to put up some really gaudy numbers. What happens with Pete Carroll leaving in terms of their defense, I don't know. It will be interesting to see Seattle. The good news is Bo Nix is terrible. Bo Nix is going to be shown. Like I'm just calling it now. If he surprises me, I'll be the first one to apologize. I don't see it happen. I got Seattle.
Well, and to pick that up, what was Mike Daniels doing last year? Or Mike McDonald, excuse me. What was he doing last year?
I don't know.
He was the DC for the Ravens. Like, come on, dog. You had one of the top defenses in the league, and now you're going to, maybe revive the Legion of Boom. Like, you've got, a fantastic offensive coordinator, who had one of the greatest offenses, in the Pac-12 last season, with Adunze and Penix. And now you're bringing that to, you've got 3 weapons for wide receivers as well as a decent running back. I mean, the future for them is endless, or the opportunities are endless to see where they're able to take this team. It's just a matter of, can Mike McDonald make that switch from being a coordinator to being the head coach and being able to put all those pieces together to have success. I mean, we've seen it fail time and time again, where you got these dudes who are fantastic coordinators and then they just end up being a terrible head coach. Unless you're Matt Patricia or Josh McDaniels, then you're just riding the coattails of Bill Belichick, and that's what gets you hired everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
And then as far as the Broncos, I've said it before. I think we're seeing, I'm not going to say that it was all Drew Brees, but I don't think we would know as much about Sean Payton if it wasn't for Drew Brees, in my personal opinion. And it's coming to show now. They thought that he was going to be able to turn Russ around because he's supposed to be this quarterback whisperer, but it didn't happen.
Correct. I'm in the same boat. Dallas at Cleveland. So we talked about Vrabel is at Cleveland. Cleveland goes out. They get Jerry Jeudy last year. He'll be interesting. He's always been a guy that you keep thinking he's going to produce, never does. He's sort of like the Derek Carr of wide receivers. And then on Dallas' standpoint, here's a team that went out. It's like, I love that meme where the dude's like, I hope you're ready for this. And he's got this big dinner tray. He goes, because I got you. And he takes the lid off and it's nothing. Like, that's what the Cowboys did last season. Yeah. You go out, you get Zeke again, who we already know.
A long snapper.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. One of the greatest summations of Cowboys in the playoffs ever is him taking that snap and then just getting immediately murdered. Then you have Dalvin Cook, who couldn't make it with the Jets last year. They have CeeDee Lamb. They don't have anybody else. Like, I do like their tight end. Tight end balls out.
Yeah, Ferguson.
And Dak. Like, this to me, I feel like Myles Garrett is, as close as he got to murdering Mason Rudolph a few years ago, this will be the closest that he gets on an opposing quarterback. Like, this should be a game that I think Cleveland dominates. They should dominate this game. And it's, the narrative was written 25 years ago when, the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl, that Jerry has really drugged them down. I think that this is really going to start echoing that sentiment that Jerry needs to stop. Like, enough's enough. You're the reason we're losing games. Mm-hmm. That's my take. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. I went back just to double check to make sure that I didn't give Dallas too much credit. I've got Cleveland both sides. They're going to win it outright. They're going to cover. And for me, I don't. And here's the thing: I don't even need Deshaun to be that good. He's got Chubb. Is not back in the backfield. I forgot. Crap, he's sitting out for 4 games. Anyways, okay, so I do need Deshaun to play a little bit better than what he showed in starting off last season. But I think him having the reps, he's been able to show he still has the talent. Obviously, that talent doesn't just go away, but it's about getting that rhythm and timing back with this offense, with Stefanski's offense, to see if he's able to produce what he was able to, because now he's got Amari Cooper and he's got Jerry Jeudy. And I understand, like, Jerry Jeudy didn't look that flashy in Denver, but it's what we already just talked about a couple of minutes ago. He hasn't had a good quarterback to get him the ball. So maybe we're just not seeing it because, uh, Jerry Jeudy wasn't able to, uh, or he just wasn't getting the ball to him. Or maybe Steve Smith was right and Jerry Judy's just trash. Like maybe they need to fight already, just to settle this once and for all. But let's not forget about this Cleveland defense. They were on top of the league all season last year, and they were the main reason why they even made the playoffs. Like, yes, you can argue that Flacco helped them get to the playoffs, but as far as the main reason why they were there, I mean, it's number 95 coming off the end. Like,
Yeah.
and,
Defense wins championships.
yeah, and he played unreal last season. I know that there was some, a little bit of controversy about him winning the or defensive player of the year last year over DJ or TJ Watt, but still, this guy played his absolute best last season, and he could honestly have been put up for MVP just by the caliber that he was playing, putting that team on his back, just like TJ Watt does, for the Steelers. It was that much more important last year with Cleveland just because they lost their perfect starter as their quarterback. And let's be honest, there's still question marks because he hasn't been throwing. Like if you remember that a couple of weeks ago, they're like Deshaun's not even throwing because he's got a shoulder injury, and it's just like, well, there's too many question marks to know if Deshaun's actually recovered or not, or if he's going to be in a Cam Newton situation and can't throw the ball 10 yards.
100%.
And then
It'll be. Go
And then
ahead.
I was just going to go in on Dallas. Like we were all sitting around last year, we're like, all right, what moves Dallas is going to make? Now that the market's open, and we're waiting. Everybody's doing this, everybody's doing that. Moves are happening all over the place. First thing that pops up, oh, Dallas signed a long snapper. All right, good job, Jerry. Like that's the kind of stuff. Like that's not the front page news that you need to come out of your office. That's the one thing that you did 2 weeks after everything opened up. And we see it time and time again. And Jerry just cannot lose that control of his position. He doesn't want to lose that power. And it's like, dude, thank you for what you've done to the game. Thank you for growing this brand, period, dot. But you are single handedly ruining the organization. And everybody's been saying it for the last 10 years. But until and it's sad to say, but until he dies, like, they're not going to have control of that team. And
Correct.
that's the worst part about it because they could be so much better, in my opinion. Dak is fantastic in the regular season for the most part, unless they're playing from behind. They paid CD. Okay, we're going to go committee with Cook and Zeke. Maybe you have some success, but as soon as one of them gets hurt, you're done, because the other one can't take that workload. I think Dallas is going to have a lot of questions. They just traded their backup tight end up to the Chiefs, so they lost him as well. So now Jake Ferguson is out there by himself, which he played fantastic last year. Don't get me wrong. I think Ferguson is going to be one of Dak's top targets. But the defense, I really think we're going to see regression, in my personal opinion, just going from Dan Quinn now to Mike Zimmer. We'll see if Zimmer, this is his first year back into the league after 5 seasons or so being out. I could be wrong on that math. It might be less than that. But anyways, now that Zimmer's been out of the league, how much has he stayed on top of it, or has he just been hunting on his ranch this whole time? Like who knows? We don't know what we're going to see out of Zimmer. I think this might be the year that we see McCarthy get fired, in my personal opinion. Especially they've been 12-5 the last 3 seasons, and Mike is always on the hot seat, even though he has a winning record. Tell me how that makes sense. So I can see this being the year that Big Mike gets out in Dallas.
I see that 100%. Last 3 games, we got Washington at Tampa Bay before the Sunday night game. For me, this is about Dan Quinn taking a defense that he did last few years in Dallas and really took a bunch of lesser known guys make them very good. I think Washington has a ton of players on defense that I think that they'll be one of the better defenses in the league going out. The question is how does Jaden Daniels look? Can they keep him from getting killed when he runs? Teach him how to slide. He's aired it out. Like the dude knows how to air out the football. He has talent on the offensive side. We'll just see how that manifests. On the opposite side, I feel like this is going to be a regression year for Tampa Bay. And it's just because, last year Mike Evans is in a contract year, balls out. I'm not saying that Mike Evans isn't going to ball out this year. He just had a lot of incentive, millions of dollars of incentive to ball out last year. The team got older. Like Chris Godwin got older. They did not get younger in a lot of different categories. And I think that hurts Tampa Bay in the long run. I think Washington goes in and gets the win. So one of the upsets that I do have for me, Washington beating Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with it early. What about you?
Yeah, I still got Tampa Bay winning this game. Um, just for the Commanders team that we've seen time in and time out, like, yes, the regime has changed, but I don't think week one is where we're going to see the shift. I do think, Jaden Daniels is going to be a fantastic player, but we've also seen the dude get rocked in college. So who knows what version of Daniels is going to show up? I know he can play. Uh, Kingsbury, he sucked as an NFL coach, but now he's an OC. So it's one of those scenarios that I just talked about, a couple minutes ago. Is he going to be that OC who works well in the system, just not a good head coach overall? So a lot of question marks there. And then obviously, yeah, we already know Dan Quinn knows how to call a defense. And let's be honest, Washington's defense has been slightly above average. I would say, if you had to pick one of them to carry the team, it was definitely the defense, because Sam Howell just wasn't getting it done last season. Jacoby Brissett, was he there last season? Regardless, I know Jacoby had a stint there in Washington. He wasn't getting it done. You've got McLaurin on the outside, and he's been your number one guy on offense this whole entire time. I'm sorry, but a wide receiver should not be your best player on your offense, just because, like we've always talked about with that whole, should the Bears draft MHJ, like, he doesn't touch the ball every single play, and that's what it showed for Washington was like your best player, only gets the ball 33% of the time. There's something wrong here. We need to change it around a little bit. And you hit the nail on the head with Tampa Bay. I still don't think that the Commanders are going to be able to overcome and beat them, but it will be interesting to see. There's a lot of guys that the Tampa Bay is still able to bring back and that they're playing with this year yet again. So I think the team dynamic is there for Tampa Bay, and I think they're going to be the front runners alongside of Atlanta for the division. So I don't think Washington is going to be able to beat them this weekend.
We'll find out. It will definitely come down to defense, I think, for both teams of who really comes out on top. Then into the Sunday night game, which I think is it's a good rematch of the playoffs. Last year, you got the Rams going to Detroit. My immediate hot take is this is where Stafford gets his revenge.
Yeah.
I think Stafford goes in and beats Detroit. Detroit's rebuilding a secondary. It'll be interesting to see if Detroit can win this game. It says so much about Detroit, like of trying to finish the job and get to the Super Bowl. If they come out and get beat by 27 points by the Rams, and the Rams just look like they manhandled them the entire time, it's sort of like the Chiefs Ravens game. This game means much more to the Lions, sort of like the Ravens it does to the Chiefs, than it does to the Rams. The Rams will be fine either way. Like they have Stafford, they have Puka Nakua, they have Cooper Cup, they have guys. For Detroit, this is a huge moment for them to say, no, last year wasn't a fluke. We're coming out. I don't think it happens. I think it really, I can see the Rams winning handedly, honestly, just because I don't see Stafford losing twice in Detroit. I think he'll spoil the opening, game for him. That's my hot take. What about you?
The fact that he's coming back to pretty much home. For besides the last 3 seasons, Detroit was home his whole entire NFL career. So I don't think what you're getting to, about them going back to Detroit. If you paid any attention, and I'm talking for all of our listeners, if you paid any attention to the offseason, they talked about, that last game Detroit played, they had 3 false starts, I think it was, for the other team just because the noise. They were unable to hear the play call coming in. And I don't think that's going to be an issue for Stafford. Stafford, he knows the crowd, he knows, those folks, and it's not going to rattle him as much as it would somebody else. He's got too much experience in this league to come out and be shaken by what the what the crowd's doing to him. So yes, I'm with you. I think the Rams, they win outright, they cover, they do the whole thing. And just like you said, like the Lions are rebuilding that secondary. That's been your stance this whole entire time. And I think they're playing the perfect quarterback to see just how much work that secondary's done this offseason. Because let's be
100%.
honest, Stafford, as long as his neck and shoulder is healthy, that guy can still spin it. So I'm going to say good luck to that Detroit Lions rookie secondary because they're about to get worked out this weekend.
He's the best quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah.
Stafford.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. The one thing that I will say, I mean, we'll see what Goff can do. On the other side, it might be a tit for tat. Just how much he's able to, how much the Detroit Lions are able to get in. Has Gibbs returned yet? I know they got Montgomery.
They're saying everyone's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
So, for me, they have JMO, who's going to be filling a much bigger role this year. If he can stay healthy, I think he's a real sleeper of a fantasy pick. I think he could put up some serious numbers. I wasn't a big fan of Reynolds just because Reynolds dropped some passes. We saw it in the NFC Championship game. I like Detroit on offense. It's just a matter of, can this grit team come out and make it happen again? It's difficult to find continued success year after year in the NFL. You usually have very short windows. I still think the Lions are in their window. Like, the Lions have the pieces. This is a huge game for them. I'm just not sold on it. That's why I got the Rams. I trust Stafford way more than I trust Goff. That's why I'm picking them. If you literally switch quarterbacks right now, I'd say the Lions are Super Bowl champ, like Super Bowl not champ, but favorite from the NFC.
For sure.
The Lions are going to win if they could go back and get Stafford and pair him with Campbell. 100%. You won't change my mind on that. That's why I have the Rams winning.
Mm-hmm.
Then Monday Night Football. Aaron Rodgers, will see if he can do more than run out of a tunnel and take a few snaps. Goes against what I would argue is his biggest nemesis, which is the Niners. I was seeing the news. He has not officially signed anything yet, but they are looking. Yep, Trent Williams is, trying to get his money and become the highest paid tackle in the game. They paid Ayuk. For me, San Francisco, I feel like I said this in our prediction episode, is going to have a down year. Will that start Monday night? In my opinion,
yes.
Good. All right. I was hoping that you would be on the same boat with me with the Jets. And it's not so much Rodgers, it's more the fact that I love the Jets defense.
Yes.
Love the Jets defense.
It's fantastic. I mean, we've talked about it time and time again, just how strong they are until they don't have a quarterback.
Correct. And the Jets went out and got talent on offense. They signed Tyron Smith to left tackle, which I know he's been hurt, but when healthy, dude's a brick wall. They go out and get Mike Williams to pair him with Garrett Wilson. They have went out and got guys to play positions that they needed help with. Mm-hmm. I love it from the Jets' perspective. Yeah. This, to me, is a huge game for them. Go out and vanquish the Niners. You won't see them again for the rest of the year. The only chance you're going to see them is in the Super Bowl. For them to go into San Francisco and lay it down week 1 would be huge for them. That's what I'm seeing. I'm glad you're seeing it too, because it makes me feel a little bit more confident in predicting that upset. Because right now San Francisco is -4.5. What do you have coming out of San
Yeah.
Francisco and the Jets.
So I've got the Jets winning, but I've got San Francisco covering.
Well, they can't cover.
Well, they. So I've got New York winning, but I think San Francisco keeps it within that 3 point spread. Um, for me, it's the fact that we finally get to see what we wanted to out of Aaron Rodgers coming back, and for that alone, I think he did enough ayahuasca in the off season. Going to Egypt and everything else he probably did on top of a pyramid. I think the added pieces with Mike Williams, you got a fantastic running back of Brees Hall in the backfield, and you beefed up your offensive line. Not to forget, Garrett Wilson still put up money last year, even with Zach Wilson throwing to him. So they already have all the pieces in place. Now it's just, can Aaron Rodgers be any bit of the MVP that he was with the Packers and actually lead this team, deep into the playoffs? And we've already all said it. We think, the Jets are going to be the team in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, and I still hold true to that. I think we're going to see that. My biggest question to you: what do you think of Ayuk's handling of this whole contract negotiation this offseason? Because for me, it was so wishy-washy because he was given stupid amounts of money for New England. They had a deal for the Steelers, the Cleveland Browns. It's like you have teams that want you for more money. Obviously, you're showing you don't want, like, I feel like it was a huge card game, and even either John Lynch is an idiot or, Ayuk's agent was just that good at calling the bluff.
It's like we're sitting an hour and a half, and I have a conspiracy theory that I wanted to talk about for so long. I guess I'll air this one now. I think that San Francisco may be in the position that you may see for the first time when Purdy gets to his end that he walks
Mm.
and they go get another rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it goes without saying that Purdy's $800,000 salary is the best that you're going to get in the NFL. Having a rookie contract helps your team financially. In my opinion, you can just give me a yes or a no on this. Is this team with Purdy, are we getting to see the best that Purdy will ever be right now? And what I mean is that eventually talent's going to leave. He won't have C-Mac, he won't have Debo. Every team has regression in terms of receivers and other guys. Will you still see the same level of performance out of Purdy, or are you seeing literally the best that he's going to be able to do right now?
Well, I would argue you're seeing the best right now because we've mentioned it. Kittle and Debo are both in contract years, and we don't think that they're going to be back next season just because of what it's going to cost. So, yeah, to answer that, yeah, I think this is the best of Purdy we've seen.
Correct. And for me, it goes back to if you were to put everyone dogged Saban for saying it, but he wasn't wrong. Saban brought him in and was well, you don't have elite arm talent. You don't have elite, all these variables. Now, has he played exceptionally well under Kyle Shanahan? 100%. I'm not taking anything away from Purdy. But from a standpoint of if you are looking at, hey, we can draft this rookie that we know has way better talent than Purdy does, do they go risk that? Because it's by having this new rookie, we have a coach. We can coach a quarterback. We have the pieces on the field. I don't want to invest 180 million or 200 million in Purdy, to which now it's he doesn't have all these intangibles like Caleb Williams does, that he's going to be able to make plays that no one else can make. Purdy doesn't have that. Purdy is a game manager. It just is what it is. That's for me why I sort of think that San Francisco is eventually going to regress. That's why I'm calling it this year. He still has the talent. C-Mac's still there, but I think that more and more teams are going to say, if someone is going to beat us, it's going to be Purdy. I don't it's not that I don't like Ayuk. It's more, I don't like him getting the money that he got. I don't think he's worth it.
I don't either.
They're paying him like a true number one, and Ayuk's not a number one wide receiver. Ayuk to me is exactly what some guys had saying he was going to replace in Pittsburgh of Deontay Johnson. don't get me wrong, both guys can catch. They're better than Kadarius Toney at catching a football. But in terms of like this elite playmaking ability that he's now being paid like he's Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb, some of these other guys, like he's getting this type of money. He's not that. Like Ayuk's never been the guy that I'm like, game on the line. Where's Ayuk? Get him the ball. Like
Yep.
he's not that. He's never been that for me. So that's why I think San Francisco messed up. I think San Francisco messed up because a poor kid got shot this past week. But I think the kid they took out of Florida was already sort of like not our guy. Like we took a swing and we missed. San Francisco on record does not have a good record at drafting first round picks. Like
For sure.
pretty horrendous. You look at Trey Lance, who's now with Dallas. Like
and threw 5 picks last weekend.
yeah, like their talent acquisition from not the free agency market has not been great. And eventually that catches up with you. They got super fortunate with Purdy. They draft Mr. Irrelevant. You can't sit back and tell me that, oh, San Francisco, knew what they had. No, they waited until the very last pick of the NFL draft to take the kid. Like that to me is where I'm at with San Francisco. So to answer your question, no, I didn't like that signing. I wish that they had just let him walk.
Yeah.
You could have went out and got any number of wide receivers to fill that gap. Why? Because you got C-Mac in the backfield. Like that's what you need. And you have Kittle, like in Debo. Those are in Trent Williams. Those are the guys that you go out and pay. You beef up that team like that. That's how you win. It's not without you.
Yeah.
My hot take.
And that was the thing for me. It was like, you're turning down all these teams because you want more money, but they're giving you more money than the 49ers are going to give you. So you're telling us you don't want to leave. You're just trying to call Lynch's bluff. And yeah, honestly, I'm in the same boat. Like, yes, he's made some fantastic plays for the team, but it's not to that degree where I'm just like, all right, I'm about to give you, just shy of, Tyreek money, to come back. Like, you're not Tyreek, you're not Jettis. Like he's not worth it.
Correct. 100%.
But yeah, to answer the question, I don't see the 49ers beating the Jets this weekend.
We'll find out. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I got to go to work.
Yeah. Good prediction episode. We'll see what happens, see how wrong we were. But outside of that, thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you after week 1 and give a good recap. See you later.